Taxpayers Union Senior Fellow, Mattie Duppler. Mattie, good to have you here. So what do you think? U.S. companies, we had this Wall Street Journal piece, they are feeling the pinch from tariffs. Right. Is that overcoming the benefits that they felt from tax and regulatory relief?
I think the discussion that you just had really hit the nail on the head. We've got these competing tensions of, for one, a really strong economy, thanks in part to the Trump economic agenda. That's deregulation and the tax cuts. But there's no question that a lot of the investment that we anticipated coming out of that tax cut has been stymied by the trade uncertainty. The problem with trade, of course, is that it destabilizes business decisions. We don't know where this is headed. We now know that we have maybe 90 days more to make a decision, but businesses can't make those decisions on a dime. They need to be able to plan for the future. So that investment is so crucial, and it was the driving force behind what we did when we changed the tax code last year, allowing businesses to recoup costs on investment, lowering that corporate tax rate. All of that was meant to get businesses to invest here in the United States. So moving forward, there's a couple questions. Does that mean that we'll see less growth in the coming years? It's possible, but on the individual side, Americans for the first time will be paying their taxes in that new tax code. One of the challenges over the past several months is communicating to Americans that they did in fact get a tax cut. So moving into the holiday season where consumer spending is normally very high, this is the first time consumers are kind of living in that new tax code versus paying them coming in April, right, when the last April they had paid with the last old tax code. So it'll be interesting to see as Americans start to incorporate that into their finances, how that shows up in consumer spending in Q1 next year.
Well, and Deidre, how it shows up in profits of companies. I mean, it's all about the cost of doing business. Taxes are a cost. Regulations are a cost. Those costs came down. But tariffs are a cost as well, and those costs have come up.
And I think one thing that we just need to remind ourselves, we pay the tariffs, right? There's no just kind of amorphous figure out there paying them. It's coming down to us. And at any time you have the U.S. consumer being put in a precarious position, you have to take notice, right? That's 2/3 of our GDP is our spending. Now, what is helping so much, and I think is a very positive underpinning to the U.S. economy, is gasoline is cheap for many people, and especially going into the holiday season, it probably means we're all going to spend a little bit more. So that is certainly a positive. But yeah, the tariffs, honestly, it's a headwind.
Well, taxes, John, as I said, are a cost, and they did come down. The question is whether they can come down further. If the Republicans had won the House, I suspect the chances of that would be better than they are now.
Yeah, that's a rhetorical question. You're right. I mean, you just answered the question. I think that don't count on it for now. And as for resolving this supply chain problem with China, companies are stuck at this point. They've built out incredible infrastructure in China, and China is really good at logistics now and keeping costs down on supply chains. You don't just move because you're not sure where the tariff debate's going to resolve. You don't move it to Vietnam, and you don't bring it back to the United States. If you bring it to the U.S., your costs go significantly up. If you move to Vietnam or India, you're dealing with all sorts of logistics problems and infrastructure problems that you don't have in China. So they're kind of, for the moment, they're kind of stuck, and they're waiting to see how this.
And Mattie, investments, businesses. A lot of people had suspected that with tax cuts they just buy back their stock, but they did a lot more than that. The companies and corporations in this country spent a lot, first of all, on hiring people. That's why we have more jobs than job seekers at the moment, and it costs money to hire. Every individual worker costs about $10,000 to find and then train. So I'm wondering if those investments begin to slow up as they have less money to invest.
Right. Well, consider the economic environment that we're currently in. You've got 7 million jobs that are going unfilled, 3.7% unemployment. We're starting to see wages go up steadily. That's certainly a good indicator that businesses are looking to make those investments. They would like to give some of those benefits back to their workers and be able to invest in the people who are doing that work. The question, of course, is whether or not we have public policy that allows them to see into the future and notice that as a good, firm business investment. Businesses would like to be doing that. They need the certainty in order to do so.
Mattie, John, Deidre, good to have you all here. Thanks, you very much. Well, one thing that's going up today is oil prices. They're surging as OPEC has reached a deal to cut output. So what does that mean for consumers? And we'll have the latest reaction to the markets tonight on Bulls and Bears. We'd be happy if you watch. That's at 5 p.m. Eastern Time right here on Fox Business.